Hello and welcome to episode 2 of the Penton Triathletes Meet a Triathlete. And it's great to be back for episode 2, mainly because we got pretty decent feedback from episode 1, and thanks to Warren again for doing that. These events are predominantly about the social gathering, and we have a live audience with us tonight. So we'll just have a quick hello to the live audience. Who many of whom will become victims of this in due course. This is a chance also then to chat and learn from a member about their story and top tips that they may have and experiences they've had, which may be very experienced and in some cases down the line not so experienced. We're going to be trying to hear stories from all of the different range of folks that are part of what we do, and from some folks externally as well. If you aren't here this time and you're watching the recording, please come along in the future. It's a good time to get together and have a catch up on and see how everyone's doing. Without further ado, I'm absolutely delighted to welcome our guest for episode 2, and Clare Dow is our victim this time. Clare, how are you?
I'm fine.
Are you ready for this?
No.
Warren survived it. You'll be absolutely fine, I'm sure. Good. And we had a little bit of a chat before, so you know most of what's coming, and the bits you don't know, I don't know either. We'll see how we go. So let's start at the beginning. So take us back to young Clare and school and childhood and your exposure to sports and things you were doing back in those days.
Yeah, so I wasn't really that sporty. I had a bike. Actually, my first bike had solid wheels. You know, no air in them at all, and I had a series of very rickety bikes growing up.
Not full aero solid wheels.
No, solid
tires.
Absolutely solid tires. Yeah, they were always secondhand and awful. But I was a kid, I did lots of cycling around the local village and whatnot with my sister. Unfortunately, my school experience of sport was not good because I fell into the shadow of my very non-sporty sister. And I was telling you about my first PE teacher was called Miss Topless, and
Topless.
unfortunate
now,
name for a PE teacher.
Did that get ribbed at school?
I can't really remember. I mean, she did have a big chip on her shoulder, and
I thought you were going to say something
no. And because my sister had been so incredibly against any sport, I just had to suffer her hatred of me, I think. So sport at school was not great. I tried various things. I tried to be on the hockey team. That didn't work. I got hit by a hockey ball that broke a hockey stick. So no, it was not good. And I did a little bit of running, maybe at school, but not a great deal.
Okay, so no need to dwell in this.
No.
We can move on to the next part of the story.
Yeah, so then I went to uni, learned to sail, very bad at sailing. I'm too light to be a crew. I was not good at being a helm. I did a lot of drinking, not much sailing. And then I moved up here, actually, and I started climbing, which was great. I thought, why didn't anybody ever introduce me to climbing? Because I'm light, I got strong quite quickly. I learned to climb. Did a bit of mountaineering, got into some scrapes up in the hills, but I did actually a load of long days out on the hill, which I think sort of set me in good stead for where I am now with triathlons. So
going back to uni and drinking a lot, isn't that a sport at uni?
Probably.
Qualifies drinking as a team game or solo, whichever you prefer. So climbing starts to get you active, mountaineering starts to get you active, and then somehow you stumble into triathlon. So how did that all happen?
So I met Andy actually through climbing, and we got married and had kids, and it gets increasingly difficult to keep climbing going, particularly in Edinburgh, because there's not many crags to get to easily, and you have to climb a lot to be a good climber, and it's just kind of hard when you've got kids.
Before the Ratho Climbing Centre.
Even then I did sort of still do a bit of climbing, but just sort of keeping it going wasn't really working. It's so much easier just to go for a run. So I started running a bit, And for my 30th, I got a wetsuit. And I thought, right, okay, swimming.
So hang on a minute. How do you just randomly get a wetsuit?
Oh, yeah, for my birthday.
birthday.
Andy bought me a wetsuit because I kind of
Was
always
this a discussion point? Was there anything behind it?
I'd
Hey, surprise! There's a wetsuit.
No, I'd always loved swimming in the sea, but I'm incredibly bad in the cold. So, so Andy bought me a wetsuit, and I thought, oh, this is great. I started going up to the reservoir to the swimming they used to do on a Wednesday evening. Okay. And then realized that I was doing breaststroke and nobody else was. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm doing something wrong here. So I thought, right, I need to learn to do front crawl. So I had some lessons from a guy actually won the 4th crossing race. The girls were having lessons, and I had a few lessons with him. And that was really helpful. And then, funnily, actually, similar to Warren, I was friends with Peter. We used to go to mother and toddler group together, or obviously father and toddler group. And Peter was telling me about the solstice triathlon. And I was like, oh, I could do that. Of course, it was full that year, so I didn't get to do it. But I thought, well, I'll join.
So we got toddlers now, so that gives us an idea. Because Abigail and Emily are now 17 and 16.
Yeah. Yes.
So. 15 years ago.
Yes. Yeah. Gosh. Yeah. So started running, swimming, and then joined the triathlon club. Had a sort of road bike, which actually Kev Keeley had told me, oh, don't buy that. You'll regret. I had a sort of cyclocross bike, and you'll be buying a road bike before you know it. Which of course, I did. So and
like Warren, have you bought 10 or 20 bikes?
No, not quite as many, but you can always
a few. Exactly.
So I did. So joined the club, started doing a few shorter distances, did a few sprints.
So now you're coming into cycling, running, swimming, not from a climbing background. You talked about breaststroking at the first, out of 3 meter. What about the other disciplines? How were you with cycling and running as you were coming into triathlon?
So I'm pretty mediocre at all sports, I feel, but I try hard at all of them. The swimming, I obviously had a massive improvement to go through. I think I've reached a plateau, but I'm happy. I think I have very stiff ankles, and I'm sure anybody who has coached me knows you cannot make me kick because it just doesn't. So
we got Frank in the audience here, who I know from personal experience is very good at pointing out problems with your kick and your ankles. I'm sure you've been on the receiving end of that insights into your swimming styles.
I think I'm never going to be good at kicking, but the bonus is when you wear a wetsuit, your legs are up anyway. So
definitely helps. Okay. So first early races, you said you were doing some short distance stuff.
Oh, so I did the short. There was like a short one in East Lothian, in North Berwick. That was my first one. That's probably my first and only sort of official pool-based one.
Okay. Was that in Haddington?
No, it was at North Berwick.
At North Berwick.
Yeah. I hate pool-based triathlons. I hate the panic of people swimming up behind me and things. So
and knowing what the etiquette for passing or being undertaken.
Yeah. But that was my first one, and then I don't know what I did after that. I think I did.
You were trying to do solstice. Did you get solstice?
Oh, I did. I did do solstice the first year that I was in the club, actually.
And how did that go? First time round?
Yeah, good, I think. Yeah.
So by this time you're swimming freestyle and
I must have been
swinging the arms in the water.
I must have been. I think it was fine, and
clearly it was good if you don't remember the specifics.
And actually, I'd always been a mountain biker, although I'm not a great mountain biker and have broken a few bones but I obviously practiced the solstice route many a time, so I was quite happy.
And then we get to a couple of iterations, and there's a bit of a story here around Kelpman.
Yeah.
Tell us how Kelpman came about, and initially, and we'll get into the second bit after that.
Yeah. So by this stage, I'd done a few standards, and then going back a bit, actually, I signed up to Edinburgh Half Ironman just because it was Edinburgh, and I thought, well, if I'm going to do an Ironman, a half Ironman, it's probably going to be my only one. I'll just, I'll do Edinburgh. That's fine. So, I'll get out of my system. That'll be it. So I did Edinburgh, survived that horrific swim.
People still talk about that now.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't have happened these days.
Mm-hmm.
It was, they shouldn't have had people in the water. It was too dangerous. Mm-hmm. And to this day, I can't actually tell you how I got around that swim. My Strava swim looks short, but I'm pretty sure I did. I did breaststroke the whole way around. But I'm so stubborn. This is going to be my only half Ironman. I've got to finish it. I've spent all that money. I'm going to do it. Anyway, so I did that. But I felt, I did it and I finished it, but I was dissatisfied. Nobody wants to do a shortened swim. And, so then I did the Northumbrian the year after. So obviously it wasn't going to be my only half Ironman. And then somebody said...
we might hear more about the Northumbrian from someone else in the audience in a future podcast.
So I trained with Julie for that, and we'll hear her story another time. And then so I did the Northumbrian, and then somebody said, oh, there's this half or solo Keltman. I'm like, oh, I really fancy the Keltman, but I'd never do it. It's too big. I love doing stuff in beautiful scenery. This is a really good opportunity to do just that, but half the distance. So Myra, Clare, and Lindsay were also up for it. So we all trained together to do that. Unfortunately, Clare wasn't able to do it, but the three of us went and did that. It was amazing. It is the best race ever. And I said,
so what was so good about it? One of the questions coming up is best moments in races. This sounds like we're heading there. So what was so good about that?
Yeah, it's just amazing scenery. You're sort of cycling along thinking, oh, we are so lucky to live here. And this has got to be one of the top races out there because it is beautiful. And the roads are a bit bad, but and you're swimming with jellyfish and you're running under Leotac. I mean, what more could you ask, really? It was
all the things triathletes love.
Yeah, it's amazing. So so it was a really brilliant race.
And is the run on the half, forgive me for not knowing this, but is the run on the half in the hills and in the mountains?
Yeah, so it's the reverse of the white route for the Keltman. Okay. So you're definitely out there in the in the elements.
In the countryside.
Yeah. It's a bit of a laborious run back along the road, but And
you got around okay?
Yeah. Not. I've never been. One or two times when there's been a very small field, I've got a second or whatever, but only in my age group, and that's only when nobody else has turned up. But
that's my ambition.
I finished it and I was really chuffed with it. Yeah, really chuffed to have done that. And it was beautiful. It was amazing to have done it with a group of ladies. We said it was like it was just an excuse to go away for a weekend, away from the family.
And stretch your legs.
Yeah.
And then
so then I was on holiday. I just got to Italy, and Dave Coldwell messaged me and said, "Get on, Claire, you can do it." And I'm like, what's he talking about? Why is he congratulating me on the half Keltman? That was weeks ago. And then Frank messaged me and said, "Have you seen Facebook?" And I'm like,
it's great that the two of them are sitting right here in the middle of
God. And my heart sort of sunk because training for something like the half Keltman, even it takes an incredible amount of time.
So explain to everyone what had happened, what they were.
So basically, I got a place for the Keltman through. Yeah, basically you get through the ballot. They don't give it to you for free.
But you weren't necessarily expecting or going.
No, well, we knew it might happen. All of us knew it might happen, but I wasn't really anticipating it being me. And I'd always said I would never do it, but somebody says you've got a place, what do you do?
What can you do? Yeah.
So having
not tell the husband.
Yeah. So I didn't tell him for 3-4 weeks, and then And then I did tell him, and he said he knew already. But it's difficult because it does take, as we all know, it takes up a huge amount of time, and even with older children, it puts a huge amount of pressure on.
So we'll come back to that.
Yeah.
So Kelpman, you got the place.
Yeah.
Andy now knows you're doing it, and you're thinking about getting yourself ready. And how does it go training wise and all the rest of it?
Yeah. So for most of my bigger races, I've had a coach. So Carl Ziner has coached me through it, which I found really important because I need somebody to tell me what to do. I've not got time to sit and work out what I should be doing. So it's been really helpful to have that. So I went to Carl, and I think he was slightly shocked that I was planning to do it, but he said he would help me prepare for it, and my training went pretty well. But I look back now and I think, how did I do it? How did I do all these big rides? But I did the big rides, not big runs. I hadn't done any of the elements at that distance. I hadn't run, I hadn't swum 3,000 meters. Even I hadn't
with jellyfish.
Yeah, I hadn't cycled over 100 miles. I thought, I better do that soon because it's a bit scary. I had done a marathon, but not obviously a hilly marathon. So there was quite a lot of work. But you know that actually when you train for these events, you very rarely do the full distance of them anyway. Yeah. So.
And how long was it between finding out you were into the race?
So I found out, was it the October? No, I signed up in the summer before actually. Right. So the summer and then.
So nearly a year.
Yeah, nearly a year. So I had a bit of a head start from anybody who just gets a place.
But you're building on having just done the other version.
Yeah. So training went pretty well.
Until.
So I work in a school. And I'm exposed to all sorts of viruses. I have teenage children, and I'd been pretty good all the way through. But then my last big ride, I thought, I'm not feeling great. But I went and did it, and then I started really not feeling great.
And how long before the race?
2 weeks before.
2 weeks.
2 weeks before. Yeah, not great. I didn't test, but I think I probably did have COVID. The reason I think that is because my heart rate was really high and wouldn't go down. And anyway, so I thought, well, I've got two choices. I either pull out now or I just try and rest up. And Carl said, just do nothing. I know it's your taper week, but just do nothing. So I did that, which was incredibly frustrating. And nobody wants to do that in your taper week. You're desperate to do something.
You got all that energy.
Yeah, all that energy. But I got myself ready. I managed to get packed up, which is an epic in itself. And support team, amazing. I had the most amazing support team. I had Liz and Hannah and Andy and the girls as well. So I was so excited actually because Liz was going to run with me on the second half of the run. And I was like, it's going to be brilliant. And Andy was going to run with me on the first part of the run, but then he got sick as well. So I think we probably had all had it. Yeah. But we got there. I did a run the day before. My heart rate was still a bit high, but I felt kind of okay. Got 5 o'clock, got to the swim, felt like a complete imposter. I think Frank will agree with me. You're surrounded by these people at the top of their fitness, and it's quite intimidating.
It takes all sorts.
What am I doing? I'm a 53-year-old PSA, and I'm at the Kelpman. What am I doing? It was kind of crazy, but and I've got to swim from one side of the lock to the other, and it's terrifying. But I got in the water. I think I might have been in the film about Kelpman because the guy that was with the camera was there just as I set off, but it's all very quick. So that's my starring moment. Anyway, and the swim went okay. I was out of the water in the time I thought I would be. I wasn't cold, which was amazing. I had like as much neoprene as I could wear, I think, once. So, and fine, got changed, had some porridge, got on my bike. but I kind of knew as soon as I was on my bike, it wasn't right. You know, I just didn't have quite the strength in my legs. You know, I didn't feel like I had them before after doing a long swim to a bike, which I had done. And I could just feel it the whole way round. You know, everything was just hard work, and I could feel the time falling away from me. I just couldn't.
So I actually was tracking you live on the app, watching you and watching the time, and there was a few of you in that zone, and of course there's a cutoff, isn't there?
Yeah.
At the transition to the bike. So tell us about that.
So yeah, I knew I was pushing it, and then it started raining. Stopped to put my jacket on. I thought, do you know, I just want to finish the bike. I'll be so dissatisfied if I give up now. I could have stopped at the cafe. What's the Midge Bike Cafe? You know, it was pissing down the rain. I could have just given up then, but I thought, no, I'm going to finish the bike. You know, I want to do that. But I knew it wasn't going to work. No, it wasn't going to be fast enough. So, and it was 15 minutes over the cutoff, which, you know, saying that, I'm not sure. I probably could have done the first part of the run. I wouldn't have been in time to do the second part of the run anyway, and I'm not sure I would have had it in me, or it would have been probably good for my health to have done that.
Considering what you were dealing with. Yeah.
So, yeah, I was disappointed, but as I think Dave said, I did the biggest aqua bike in the UK.
Yeah,
I mean, who can complain?
Well, amazing credit to you for getting to the bike, even getting to the start line, frankly, with all of that going on, and for managing it in that 2 weeks before, never mind managing all the training and everything else. So I'm going to bring you another question higher up the list, because before we get into a couple of other things to finish and go to the audience for questions, but aspirations for the future. I mean, I think everyone wants to know now. This happens, bad luck with the COVID potentially, or ill health.
Yeah.
Battle your way. You used the word today and in the chat before, stubborn, a few times. So your stubbornness gets you to the finish. So fantastic. What about the future? What happens now? What are you looking at now?
Yeah, so I am stubborn, and I think anybody can do anything if they can just put up with a bit of pain and just keep on going. You know, I've always, you know, on paper I shouldn't really be trying these things, but why not? You know, so I've got a 2-year plan. I'm going to do the half Kelman again this year, partly because I don't think I can put my family through the full Kelman training another year, but also I know I need to get stronger on the bike. And I want to really work on that this year. And yeah, I need to do several things to get that into place. I need to find I think a different coaching scenario for me. I need somebody that's really going to help me with that. So I'm looking into that just now. I've signed up to earn X-Tri points, because that helps you get
we'll hear about place. All of that in future too.
Yeah. So. And hopefully, there seems to be quite a few people doing the solo Kelman again. So ladies are all coming away. We're going to have a lovely weekend again. But I think there's a few other people coming from.
And hopefully just as much fun as the last time. When you,
I know.
And then fingers crossed for another entry.
Another entry. And I'm going to give it another bash. You know, there's lots of people. The guy who I sort of did a bit of tag team with at the end, and he did get onto the run for the Kelman. He'd done it about 4 times and not finished it.
Oh wow! Okay.
Amos, he was hilarious. My girls fell in love with him. It was just so funny.
So, in terms of training, and there's been a few references to family, and I think if we're going to do these over a period of time, and we're talking to men, and then we're talking to women, I suspect, I'm saying this as a man, that when we talk to women, family are going to be more of the story in terms of where that fits in. Although any of us have done any longer stuff, and Dave, I have done some long stuff, and I do remember the impact on family. But what about the women's perspective on having children? I mean, and you started when they were toddlers. And fitting this in, particularly the long distance thing, and do you think there's a difference between that and how the rest of us blokes kind of approach our
I don't know. I'd like to say there isn't. I feel there is a difference, but maybe I think everybody feels that sense of guilt about how much time it's all taking. No, maybe not. No, maybe not then.
Mrs. P is here.
But yeah, I mean, always trying to fit it in around family and everything. Things that always happen, just and I was thinking this evening before I came out, you go out on a bike ride, you have this amazing bike ride, and then you come back in the door and there's some crisis happening, and you go from being like a triathlete in training to a mum, dealing with the latest crisis that's happening, or somebody's grown out of their trainers, or somebody's injured themselves, or somebody's having something going wrong at school, and you just have to switch immediately from what you were doing to being a mum again. And quite often that leads to things getting left by the side with your training, like how many times did I say, right, I'm going to stretch when I get home, and then that doesn't happen, or I should eat some protein, and then it's like everybody wants to eat at the same time, so you don't end up eating until about an hour later because you're feeding the family. So is a bit of a balance.
I love that line. Suddenly someone's grown out of their training.
I know, it just happens. How can they do it?
When we talked before, you had a funny line as well about washing.
Oh, yeah.
You called it.
Man, sometimes I wish I didn't train so much, because it just adds washing, I mean, there is so much washing when you've got a family.
And you called it the Olympic sport.
Oh, Olympic sport of washing, and hanging out washing, and I probably always have the most washing.
Yeah. We also talked a little bit about the occasion last summer where we'd organized a discussion, a presentation for externally around training and being active through peri and post menopause phases of life, and asked you kind of what your thoughts were on that. And
I know, as if isn't bad enough surviving pregnancy and recovering. Actually, and I think that's a thing that's quite important, is women. The one thing women have to do is they have to recover after being pregnant. I think there's plus and minus from that, because it makes you good at getting over an injury, because you've had to get over pregnancy and get back to fitness. But menopause, I'm definitely much stiffer now than I used to be. I think I just have to think differently about my training now. I'm doing so much more strength and conditioning than I've ever done, and I think if I didn't do that, if I don't do that, I do see a deterioration in my fitness. And it's there. I think exercising is obviously a good thing. People say, oh, I'm menopause, I'm really tired all the time. I'm like, it's hard to know if it's menopause or if I'm just knackered because I'm training all the time, but so
that whole recovery piece, balancing diet, getting the
diet. I mean, I've definitely changed what I try and make sure now that when I do come back from a big long ride, I try and get some protein as soon as possible, because I know that's important. And I did actually training for Edinburgh. I think I did experience a little bit of not eating enough, and and I think that had a bit of an impact on my hormones. So I do think it's one thing you have to be really careful with. Even training sort of in sort of later years, I think you do have to think so carefully about what you eat
and making sure you're getting all the recovery that you need, because if you're feeling tired and you're not sure what.
I mean, I must admit, I have sort of ended up like using a protein shake, because it's just so much easier to have that straight away, and then you can.
I mean, recovery downtime as opposed to nutrition, so days off.
I'm pretty good at that, although often my days off used to be like, right, let's get all the washing done and the cleaning done and stuff. Okay. It's easier now when they get older. It is easier, and they start to train with you, which is great. I started running with Abigail, which is fantastic, and it changes.
Any questions from our erstwhile audience sitting here listening in? We'll put you guys on the screen. No pressure. Anyone got a question?
I'll ask the same questions. session, which was one was all about virtual e-coach, electronic gadgets and aids, and you seem to like the personal touch of having somebody to actually speak to in contrast. So, what are you thinking of your future coaching needs? An e-coach or a real person?
Oh, I don't know. I said to Jim, actually, currently I'm following just a plan that's been put on the X-Tri website that I got because I've joined this program to get X-Tri points. And pretty much, if something appears in Training Peaks, I will do it. You know, I'm the ideal person to be coached. You know, if somebody says do this, I will do it. So I could probably do a virtual one, but I do like somebody who keeps an eye on what you're doing and says, yeah, maybe you've done a bit too much, or this is the best thing to do. I'm not very good. Well, I can spend a lot of time not talking to whoever's coaching me, but then sometimes it's really good to get that sort of verbal feedback from somebody.
You are a coach.
I've done a little bit of coaching with Pentland, which was interesting. That was a really interesting experience. So, yeah.
What was your main kind of learning points from that?
From coaching,
or the coaching training and going through the process of becoming a coach?
Yeah, I suppose because I was looking at for coaching young people. So I don't know, takeaways. My experience of coaching is that children really don't listen to you when they're in the swimming pool. I spend a lot of time bobbing up and down underneath the water. And
as long as they do the popping up.
It's like, I'm trying to tell you something. You're going, so
bobbing down's fine, but make sure you do the bobbing up as well.
But I mean, I think probably an in-person thing would suit me best. I know a lot of people use virtual things. I quite like all the techno. You know, I like having my watch. I've got a new watch that's giving me HRV status and things. I'm very excited about it.
Oh my God, you're getting into Warren territory talking about HRV. Brilliant.
I was slightly worried it would tell me how awfully I was sleeping, which, you know, is another menopause thing that I can't remember the last time I slept through.
A very minor thing on sleep tracking. People around me who might be in this room were a bit kind of taking the mickey of me when I was starting to track sleep. But the one thing I found was sometimes when I thought I had a really bad night, I would look at the tracker and realize that actually I was only awake for 20 minutes.
It
felt like 3 hours.
Yeah.
But actually I was only awake for 3 minutes. And then you suddenly go, actually it wasn't too bad after all.
Yeah. I think it can go both ways. I think sometimes you can think you've had a really good night's sleep and it says you've had poor recovery. And it's like,
that's why you just don't look at it too carefully. Yeah, exactly. I got one more question for you.
Sure.
But we'll see if there's anyone else who's got one more question from the audience. If not, I will jump back in. Anyone else? Dave looks coiled.
Just a quick, you touched on it at the end of it. How did your family see your triathlon life? Do they tolerate it, embrace it?
Okay, so a bit of a mix. I think they're proud of me. The girls are proud of me. I think Andy has sort of struggled with it. He's not a triathlete. He doesn't understand. He doesn't swim, and he doesn't understand why you would want to put all three things together. But I think after the Keltman, he said to me, actually, if you want to do it again, you should do it. And I think that whole experience changed his opinion of it. He'll still struggle a bit with, you know, I think the thing he struggles with is I'm not terribly organized, and quite often I'll underestimate how long things are going to take. And he does pick up the slack, and he's very good at doing that. So
Good. So last question. We already used the best and worst kind of race, probably because I would guess that best would be Keltman half, worst would be the swim in the Edinburgh half Ironman. But you can bring anything else in. Let's go with other memorable events, other memorable moments in a race or in triathlon in general, whether it's best, worst, or funny, whatever.
Oh, so my worst actually and most embarrassing was going the wrong way at Gullen. Oh my God, that was so embarrassing. I got to, I don't know if people know Gullen. It's on the bike, and you do a big loop, and then you do a smaller internal loop. And in my defense, the marshal sent me straight on, which what on earth was he thinking, that I was like the first woman or something? Anyway, he sent me straight on, and I'm like, oh, I'm back in Gullen. I shouldn't be. I should have turned off somewhere. So I had to cycle all the way back and then do the internal loop, and obviously came last. I was like, oh, that's so embarrassing.
It happens all the time, and it happens with elites.
Yeah.
Elites
So,
get sent the wrong way. It happens.
I know. And you think, I should have looked at the map, and anyway, it's fine. So that was probably my most embarrassing, worst moment. Swim at Edinburgh, yeah, that was pretty bad. And all of my halves have been pretty amazing. Edinburgh, the Northumbrian is a beautiful half Ironman. So
maybe a bit cold in the water, apparently.
Yeah, very cold, cold, and quite black, quite sort of scarily black. So yeah. You have to put, actually, a tip for cold hands is putting hand warmers in your shoes and your gloves before you go in the water.
All right, with a neoprene.
Yeah. I mean, I was really cold when I came out of the Northumbrian. In fact, very cold.
Okay, well, actually, we're going to hear more about that another time from someone else. Yeah. Claire, thank you so much. You've been amazing. It's really incredible insight into some of the stuff you were doing there, and the bravery and the stubbornness through all of it. So thank you so much for being with us for episode 2. And thank you to the audience for joining us.
Thank you, Jim.
Catch you all next time, where we will be talking to Kirsty. Kirsty will be episode 3. And that'll be at a date to be determined sometime in February, once we go upstairs and confirm what's available, and on our side as well. Excellent. Thank you very much indeed. We'll catch you all soon on the next one. Bye-bye then.